No.
Welcome to The Edge, a very odd, curious replay of 2000. You remember what happened in 2000? Al Gore was running against George Bush Jr., as I called him, Gee Whiz. And Gee Whiz was not considered too smart, and Al Gore looked like he was a smart guy. And unfortunately, the election turned into a real dogfight in the state of Florida in particular. Now, what happened in the state of Florida is interesting. The vote was very close, so the state decided to do a recount. Now, why am I telling you all this? What's that have to do with now? Well, what's going to happen, some people believe, that there's going to be a replay of 2000. Gore v. Bush 2000. It was settled a curious way, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. Curious way, there were one vote elected George Bush Jr. or Gee Whiz. So what is being proposed now? Well, our president is saying how untrustworthy the election is. It's all rigged. Well, if it's all rigged, then you have to make sure that the ballots are collected and by people you trust. And if you trust your attorney general more than you trust the attorney general of the state of, say, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, all those states, you didn't do well in Minnesota, but you did well in those other states. And also, you did well in Florida. Florida is not necessarily a gimme now, so maybe Florida is going to be a redo of 2000. 2020 redone the same or similar to 2000. What happened in 2000 is what I believe possibly is being planned for 2020. What is that? Well, on the night of the election, if the ballots going against Mr. Trump become complained about by the White House, because when this happened in Florida before, the ballots were complained about Jeb Bush, the governor of Florida, who said that vote count's not right. We have to do a recount. They announced for Al Gore as the winner in 2000, and that got reversed. Excuse me. So the situation turned into Al Gore decided to not concede. Now, he was not the sitting president, but he chose not to concede until the Supreme Court intervened December 12th from November 3rd. All that time, there was no concession, no yielding to the sitting president that he had won or lost. He hadn't conceded, so he was waiting for Gore to concede, and vice versa. Now we have a promise situation that since the vote is rigged according to the president, well, I'll do something about it, is the theory. He's going to go to state after state, as I said before, Wisconsin, Michigan, maybe Florida, Pennsylvania, and have the ballots frozen, locked in place. What does that mean? If he does that or something like that, which he's capable of, as president, he has that kind of power, he will be rigging the election and he won't concede. So the numbers of ballots that are being questioned will also come out to a certain number of electoral college votes. And that means the popular vote will be ignored in each of those states. And the electoral vote will be the only count to pay attention to. And if the electoral vote is such that it puts the whole election in process, and if Donald Trump decides to not concede, and he runs that up against January 3rd, or January 20th, he will be waiting to do the inauguration, whether he won the electoral vote or he won the popular vote or not. And it may fall onto the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court gets involved as to what he's done and his handling of the election or interfering with the election process, this could be the scenario America could be looking at, which I would say will probably provoke a civil war or something close to it, and a real problem for the country as a whole. We're very divided now, but the divisions will become much more radical and much more serious if something like this happens. And this is put out by the Atlantic Monthly, a newspaper that's pretty responsible as a serious approach to what is conceivably the plan of the president is to not concede the election. And in the meantime, impugn the various election processes in those battleground states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, maybe, um, Florida, maybe, a number of states. And the electors become the only determinant for the vote. And if it's a Republican governor in charge and it's a Republican legislature, those votes will go for the Republican, even if they lost the election. That'll affect the Senate. That'll affect a lot of things. So we're in for a real turmoil if this becomes the scenario. And the fear of what may happen and the desperation of people to change the election on both sides will get to be so intense. The anger will be so great. It'll be very difficult to actually function as a civil society. And when you no longer function as a civil society, you become a society at war with itself. That is a real possibility. And that scenario is sort of promised by Trump himself as saying the election's rigged. Unfortunately, in this situation, he would be doing the rigging. This is a short beginning statement about this. It's not about what side you're on, unless the side is for the country and the benefit of the country, for the people, of the people, by the people. And so you have a real issue of the future of this country, if it's going to survive as a United States of America. Is this what Donald Trump meant by make America great again? Leaving us in complete civil war and disarray? And he would be the initiator by refusing to concede the election, not letting the popular vote go forward, state after state after state. Is that what's coming, folks? A lot of questions here. Maybe on the side of Trump, maybe on the side of Biden, but in all truth, the vote should go forward unmolested, unbothered, but should be people are liberals and going to be people are conservatives. And conservatives make things happen their way very often. Liberals generally are open to the possibility that they're wrong and they concede what they may be wrong about. There's no virtue more or less with them. It's just that it's more civilized to talk to people and not lose the conversation. I'm afraid we're going to lose the conversation one to the other. That's my greatest fear. I want to tell you tonight, it's a worry. I care about this country. I talked to my granddaughter, who's in Switzerland right now, who got away just before the virus thing hit. It blocked all travel out of this country. Remember now, you're a country locked in by the virus. Everybody is. And a president who wants to call an election his way or the highway. I think we've got a real issue here. Are we prisoners of our own circumstance with the virus? Can't leave the country unless you go to Mexico. You can go somewhere else by going to Mexico and traveling from there. Otherwise, America is prison. Everybody locked in, not just the people in the cages on the border, not just the families separated by the cages, not just those people who are being jailed for protesting. A lot of people are going to be in a very curious thing. And so then when law and order comes into play, whose order and whose law becomes the question. And we've had this situation with the George Floyd's, black man being targeted, killed, suffocated, lynched, some people think. And you had the Jacobs fellow being shot in the back 7 or 8 times, luckily surviving, but so how lucky? He's paralyzed. Can he function in the future? What kind of country are we in now? And the police have to be, only reason you know there's a serious problem is that people are taking pictures how out of control our police are, who do not stand to be reformed as if they don't need it, and who make all their fellow police officers swear to silence as to how illegal and how corrupt they are. and how bad they are to what is called America and the image of America. What is the image of America now? We have this election situation turned into something like I've described. How would you describe a country that does that? Oh, a third world country. Venezuela? Oh, what? Something in Africa? Something in the Middle East that doesn't make any sense? A country falling apart? Is that where we're headed? Are we together? Are we united? Or is what being great again is to become a country of a few, by the few, for the few? I don't know. That's a question. A lot of questions, folks. The election coming up in 2020 doesn't look promising. We'll talk again. We'll meet again some sunny day. I want to thank you for listening. Tell me what you agree with. Tell me what you disagree with. But let's know what we know and not just have opinions for the sake of opinions. Not whose side you're on. If it isn't for America, what are you about? I'm for what America used to mean, the right of free speech, the Bill of Rights. Thank you very much. Okay, Alex. Hey, Alex.